Every breath of air you take now was made by mushrooms for you. 400 million years ago there were no trees on Earth, no grass, no forests, only giant mushrooms 8 meters tall stood on the barren land. They ruled the Earth for 50 million years then disappeared altogether. It took scientists 100 years to finally admit a fact. The nutrients released by these mushrooms after death transformed the entire soil of the Earth. Without them, there would be no forests later. Without forests, no oxygen. Without oxygen, no you. You think you are the endpoint of evolution, but you are just a byproduct of mushrooms. What's more terrifying is they haven't truly disappeared yet. In the soil beneath your feet, there are always billions of hyphae. They are still waiting for this thing. Scientists gave it a name, Prototaxites. But this name is actually a huge misunderstanding. In 1859, Canada, paleontologist Charles Dawson dug up the first fossil at Gaspé Bay, Quebec. He took one look and made a snap decision. This is an ancient conifer. After all, it looked too similar, a cylindrical trunk with patterns resembling tree rings. But here's the problem. At that time, trees hadn't evolved yet. This is like digging up a smartphone in the mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang. The logic just doesn't add up. Dawson refused to admit he had misjudged. Academics argued about this for over 100 years. Some said it was giant seaweed washed inland by floods. Some said it was a symbiont of fungi and algae. And some said, forget it. Let's just admit we don't know what it is. This debate dragged on from the Victorian era into the 21st century. In 2007, paleobotanist Kevin Boyce from the University of Chicago used carbon isotope analysis to put an end to this century-long debate. For good. He found the carbon isotope ratios inside prototaxites varied wildly, indicating it didn't rely on photosynthesis for food. It lived like a fungus, decomposing rotting organic matter. The conclusion was clear. This thing is a mushroom, an 8-meter-tall mushroom. But the story doesn't end there. In March 2025, scientist Corentin Laurent from the University of Edinburgh published a paper that stunned the entire paleontology community. He studied a smaller Prototaxites fossil, preserved in the Rhynie Chert of Scotland. This rock fragment dates back 407 million years. The cellular structures inside it are exceptionally well preserved. Long Luo carefully examined the fossil slice under the microscope. He found that the internal structure was indeed composed of tubular cells. It looked a lot like fungus, but the branching and connection patterns of these tubes were unlike any known fungus. More critically, the chemical analysis results. The cell walls of all fungi contain a substance called chitin. This is the ID card of the fungal kingdom. But in the fossil of Yuanshan algae, Long Luo found no trace of chitin at all. Instead, he found a compound similar to lignin. This substance is usually only found in plant wood and bark. What does this mean? Yuanshan algae is neither a fungus, nor a plant, nor an animal, nor a protist. It does not belong to any known branch of life. In his paper, Long Luo wrote a sentence that left the entire scientific community in silence. We believe that Yuanshan algae is best classified as a previously unknown and completely extinct group of eukaryotic organisms. In simple terms, this may be a lost kingdom of life, a fifth type of life we have never seen. Now let's go back 400 million years to see what this bizarre world actually looked like. It is the early Devonian period. You stand on land and look around. The gray-brown wasteland stretches as far as the eye can see. No trees, because trees haven't evolved yet. No grass, because grass won't appear for another 200 million years. The tallest plants on the ground are at most only up to your ankle. They lie sparsely on the ground, like malnourished moss. The air is hot and humid, with carbon dioxide concentration 10 times that of today. Every breath feels like drinking warm, thick soup. The greenhouse effect is completely out of control. The entire Earth is a giant sauna. This land is almost silent. No bird calls, because birds won't appear for another 100 million years. No sounds of any mammals, because mammals don't even have a shadow. The fiercest land animals are a group of centipedes and scorpions. The most advanced vertebrates are the jawless fish in the water. So silent it's unsettling. But on this lifeless wasteland, something is growing wildly toward the sky. 8-meter-tall cylinders, nearly a meter in diameter, with no branches, no leaves, standing there straight and stiff, looking like stone pillars from afar. Up close, the surface shows concentric ring patterns, similar to tree rings. This is Prototaxites. They covered every continent at that time, from North America to Europe, from Asia to the Middle East. Fossil records are everywhere. In a world where the tallest plants were only a few centimeters high, they were the absolute skyline. For 50 million years, nothing could challenge their height. How did they do it? The answer lies underground. Prototaxites' real weapon wasn't the pillar you see, it was the mycelial network extending kilometers underground. This network acted like a massive straw system, absorbing nutrients and water from soil for kilometers around. While other plants on the surface were fighting over a patch of ground, it had already harvested resources from the entire area. Scientists discovered this underground network could also store nutrients, saving them when resources were abundant, and using them slowly when resources were scarce. It didn't need sunlight, that was its greatest advantage. Early plants at the time had to rely on photosynthesis to survive, but Prototaxites took a completely different path. It lived by decomposing dead organic matter. Algae, moss, anything rotting was its food. This meant it could take root anywhere with enough humus, without having to compete for sunlight. And that 8-meter-tall pillar was actually its reproductive organ. Just like the fruiting body of a mushroom, this pillar's function was to release spores. The higher it stood, the farther the spores could drift. In a world with almost no competitors, this strategy was unbeatable. But what shocked scientists most was its relationship with other organisms. Fossil evidence shows that Prototaxites' interior was riddled with tunnels and cavities, like Swiss cheese hollowed out. These tunnels weren't caused by decay, they were carved out by insects of the time. Early arthropods built complex nesting systems inside these giant pillars. They dug tunnels, constructed chambers, and even formed structures resembling cities. And Prototaxites, it not only survived, but kept growing around these holes, incorporating insect activity into its own body structure. Whether this was symbiosis or parasitism, no one can say for sure. But one thing is certain, in that hostile world, these giant pillars were the best real estate. Inside the pillars, temperatures were stable, offering shelter from extreme weather. The shaded areas created by the pillars allowed some small plants that couldn't tolerate intense sunlight to survive. The moisture gathered around the pillars formed a local microclimate. When a Prototaxites died and collapsed, it turned into a massive food treasure trove. Bacteria, tiny fungi, and various decomposers would take years to slowly consume this enormous corpse. This process injected a large amount of organic matter into the soil, turning the once barren land fertile. Scientists say Prototaxites were actually the soil engineers of the Earth. They spent 50 million years, bit by bit, transforming the Earth's surface. The original soil, barren like construction waste, gradually became fertile ground capable of supporting complex life, through the decay of their generations after death. Ironically, they themselves nurtured their own gravediggers. Around 350 million years ago, the first true trees appeared. Archaeopteryx could grow up to 9 meters tall, with true woody stems, true root systems, and true leaves. Most crucially, they could photosynthesize, producing their own food. These trees didn't need to wait for the slow accumulation of decaying organic matter. With just sunlight and carbon dioxide, they could grow vigorously. Within a few years, a tree could reach a height that would take Prototaxites decades to achieve. And trees didn't act alone. They came in groups. Ferns suddenly began to grow taller, and seed plants appeared with entirely new reproductive strategies. In a relatively short geological time, true forests were born. This wasn't a simple collection of plants, but a complex ecosystem. The canopy blocked sunlight, the understory was filled with various plants, and roots intertwined into a network underground, monopolizing nutrients in the soil. Prototaxites found themselves suddenly pushed off the stage. They grew slowly, while trees grew swiftly. They relied on decaying organic matter, but trees could produce organic matter themselves. Their underground mycelial network was once an advantage, but tree roots could penetrate deeper, with higher water absorption efficiency. In the face of forests, this ruler that had dominated for 50 million years had no power to fight back. Fossil records clearly show their decline. As forests expanded, the size of Prototaxites began to shrink, and their distribution range narrowed. By about 300 million years ago, the last fossils of Prototaxites appeared in the strata. After that, there was nothing more. 50 million years of glory came to a silent end. It left behind no descendants. No living creature today is related to it, or at least, that's what we used to think. A paper in 2025 made everything far more complicated. If Yuanshan algae is not really a fungus, then it has no connection to any life on Earth today. It is a completely independent branch of evolution. It existed on Earth for at least 50 million years, and then vanished completely. We don't even know which kingdom to classify it into, because its traits don't fit any known category. A kingdom of life that once existed on Earth. One we've never seen before, and we're only just now realizing that. And what's even more chilling to think about, is what this means. Scientists say life has conducted countless experiments on this planet. Some succeeded, evolving into the animals, plants and fungi we see today. But some other experiments took a completely different path, and were erased completely at some point. Yuanshan algae might be just such a failed experiment. It once ruled the entire Earth, but history didn't give it a second chance. If the environment had been slightly different, if trees had appeared a bit later, if some mass extinction had come earlier, today the planet might not be dominated by forests and oxygen-breathing animals. Instead, it would be these sunken giant stone pillars. Next time you see an ordinary mushroom, remember, its ancestors were once the tallest life forms on this planet, and that more ancient, more mysterious Yuanshan algae might not be the ancestor of mushrooms at all, but something from a world that has vanished forever. That world ruled the Earth for 50 million years, longer than the reign of the dinosaurs, 10,000 times longer than human civilization, and then, it vanished, leaving behind not a single descendant. But the hyphae in the soil are still there. They don't speak, don't move, don't make a sound, but they have always been there, silently waiting, just as they did 400 million years ago, waiting for something that no one knows.